Well, here we go. Playoffs right around the corner. Preston Jackson, Big County Preps. We are on the Blitz package. A huge show for you today. Hope you have some time. Make sure you have the internet streaming because we got a good one. We have Coach Dominic Sile, Berkeley Prep head coach. He's going to call in to break down Tampa Catholic and CCC. His Bucks had to play both this season, so we thought he'd be the perfect person to talk to about the upcoming matchups. We also have Plant High School coach Robert Weiner. He's going to touch on Jordan McLeod and his development as a quarterback, how his Plant Panthers have evolved as they touch the playoffs each and every season. And we're going to break down East River some and see how his Panthers can be successful. Doug Pugh is going to call in BCP contributor, and we're going to talk about some out-of-area games, maybe get the Dunbar-Immokalee matchup, which we're hoping for, or we're going to definitely break down the Jesuit and Jefferson game and rematch and the Tarpon Lakewood rematch. We'll touch on St. Thomas Aquinas. Are they as good as they are in the past? And definitely touch on that big matchup in Trinity as Chamberlain travels to Mitchell. Possibly get Vanguard and Gainesville in there also. So stay with us and enjoy. Well, we have a big game across the water at Clearwater Central Catholic. The Tampa Catholic Crusaders will travel across the bay to take on the Marauders in a big-time 3A showdown. And on the phone now, we've got a coach who had to prepare for both of them in Dominic Sile. And if you don't know, Dominic Sile is one of the winningest coaches in Hillsborough County. 209 wins to date. Started back in 1986 to 2002, winning a bunch of games at Jesuit. Took a few years off, did some fishing, some other stuff, and maybe some dog walking, coach, and then came back to Berkeley Prep in 2007. He's still coaching there with his Bucks. So on the horn now, Coach Sile, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for calling.
I appreciate it. So just your overall opinion, Coach, on the new playoff format that the Florida High School Association is trying to develop and improve.
Well, we're out, so I don't, I just find it hard because it's scheduling, so it's hard to find games, and I felt we played a tremendous schedule, this year, and because of it makes it harder, and we end up 5-4, and not playing some, you could play some smaller schools and with playoff. That been in the playoff and get some points, and we didn't do that. We played some bigger schools, and I think that hurt us. But we didn't get that on the field. We lost a couple heartbreakers, and Clearwater Catholics beat us, and Tampa Catholic beat us. So we sitting at home. So
well, let's just move right into that game, and obviously both games you suffered a defeat, but they were tight games back in late August, the 29-28 loss to CCC, and then a month later, a 17-13 loss to Tampa Catholic. So when you see this matchup on paper, Coach, what was the hardest element for each team, for your team, to prepare for?
Well, Clearwater Catholic is always, both teams very explosive, and great defenses and run and hit, and they're big plays on offense. We played Clearwater Catholic the first game. I'm sure that they're, fine-tuned and much better, and playoff ready. And the same with Tampa Catholic. We played them early, and I know they went on a run here at the end. So I look for it to be closer, a lot closer. I think Tampa lost to them, early in the year. But I think this will be a closer game, and both teams, I think, are great teams, and both, I think, if they win, have a shot, to make a run in the playoffs. That's for sure.
Well, CCC doesn't allow much on defense. They haven't given up very many points. They gave up 30 to Northeast, and then followed by Northeast was the 28 points that Berkeley Prep put up on them. How are you guys successful against their defense?
Well, I don't. We had a couple big plays against them, and we were able to run the ball, be patient, and was able to run the ball a little bit. And then we had a couple big plays by our quarterback. I think he broke one for 50 or 60. So we were able to do some things, but they came back in that game and made plays at the end, and great respect for their coaches and their program over there.
They definitely are, man. It's, they have a quality staff. They've been good for a while now and kept the consistency. Let's bring it back over on this side of the bay with Tampa Catholic. Um, in your game versus Tampa Catholic, that 17-13 loss, what do you see that Tampa Catholic did well against you guys to end up winning that game?
Well, I always just think that they're always, we've always, when we face them, it's always tough on defense. They do such a great job. They're physical and tough, and against us they were that way. I think they had a couple goal line. We couldn't get the ball in there. Which I thought was a difference. They did a great job against us. And a couple goal line stands. And then they made big plays on offense. Like I say, I think they're playing way better now. And they're on a run. And I know they had a tough loss last week, but they'll be playoff ready. And again, I have great respect for all the coaches. Some of them I've known for since 1986. So
right,
and they've
right.
done Coach Wood and Coach Lewis I've known for years, and they do such a tremendous job, and I have great respect for them and their whole staff over there.
If you could give me, last question, Coach, if you could give me one key for each team that would probably lean them towards a victory, what would it be? What does Tampa Catholic need to do, and what does CCC need to do to get that W?
Well, I think whoever's really able to run the football and control the game a little bit that way, they're both big play people, but I think it comes down on offense. If they could control the game a little bit, whoever could control the game and run the football, I think they're the ones that are going to come out wins, with a win. That's what I believe. They're both big play people, but I think it's going to come down to the running game.
Coach, I appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you guys in the spring. Good luck as everybody tries to get better throughout the spring and get big and strong, ready for the fall season in 2018. But we appreciate your time, Coach.
Okay, and hey, thanks for all that you do for high school football. Man, really appreciate it, okay?
We try and get better, big dog. I appreciate the compliments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. That's Dominic Sio, one of the winningest coaches. Matter of fact, on the list of winningest coaches in Hillsborough County, Coach Sio sits not too far behind Coach Callahan. Sean Callahan, who recently retired, had 232 wins at the end of his tenure with Arnwood. Coach Sio is at 209 right now, and he's still kicking. Earl Garcia sits at number 2 as a Hillsborough County coach. He has 243 right now. And then Billy Turner's at the top, 254 wins in Hillsborough County. More playoffs, another exciting coach we've got on the way. He is the orchestrator of the Plant Panthers train that just keeps rolling every year. Doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'll just toss his name out there, Coach Robert Weiner. And just to give you guys a briefing on Coach Robert Weiner started his coaching career at Jesuit, I believe, went on to take over the head coaching job at Plant in 2004, had 7 losses in 2004. Since 2004, has not lost more than 3 games in a season. Only had 2 seasons in that range where he did not win double-digit games. And then when we say didn't win double-digit games, that means he won 9 of them. He's got 154 wins currently, 3 wins to pass Plant great coach Roland Acosta. So, Coach Weiner, appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. That was quite a lofty intro. I appreciate it. I had no idea that all of that stuff took place.
Yeah, man. You guys have done some really good things. Plant was good before you got there. Obviously, all the tradition and history. They really propelled themselves into another level after you took over, and guys started believing they could be good on a yearly basis. And that kind of sets you up to where we are now. So, with that said, you guys have made the playoffs for quite a long time. Every year since 2005 as a district champion. And now we kind of get a new playoff system where you're still the district champion. However, you go in the playoffs as a 3rd seed. What is your overall impression of the new playoff system that we have here in Florida?
Well, I mean, I would say last year when they first came up with it, I was very much in favor of it. I think anything that kind of rewards teams and has some kind of merit to it is better than what we had before, which was just kind of random as to whether a team was home or away, and kind of random even as to who you ended up playing. Now, for us, if you look at it in this particular year, it's really going to play out very similar except for home and away. I mean, if we can continue to be successful, which of course is always a big if, because every playoff game is one and done. If you don't get the job done, you're out. But our road would be a similar road to what we had last year. Maybe the difference being that we would play Vieira in the second round and Lakeland in the third round. If that all played out according to seed, no, I think that Gaithers definitely had an unbelievable season, and they're, go to Vieira and compete. The difference is home and away, and we'll go on the road. So there's definitely some kinks to work out. One of my suggestions that I would make is don't leave the playoffs and all of the seeding and point totals up to that final week. That we should take out that week number 11 of the season. In fact, down the road, maybe take it out for everyone in terms of even being a playing date, and just have that as the date that everyone has their bye, and let them know their playoff opponent the week before, so everyone has 2 weeks to prepare for the playoffs and has a chance to heal up, and doesn't find out their playoff opponent on Sunday. We do all of our preparations on Saturday and Sunday, so we were already deep into the time that we would do our preparations by the time we found out for sure on Sunday who we'd be playing. So I think there's little kinks here and there to work out, including that, we play in a large district, and some of our teams in our district don't have a great record, and we have no ability to not schedule teams like that. So, when you look at the seeding, and we'll go in as a third seed, we really had no availability to move ourselves up to a first or second seed. Someone get that phone. We had no availability. Someone get that phone for me. Someone help. We had no availability to move ourselves up. I mean, the schedule that our county athletic director had scheduled in was great. I mean, our non-district games were Armwood and Newsom and Hillsborough, all who had great records, and Robinson, who had a little bit of a down year. But those four teams were great teams as non-district.
And then you add in Tampa Bay Tech.
Well, we didn't add in Tampa Bay Tech, but they could have added in Tampa Bay Tech in that place, or another team that had a good record. But I'm saying no one's ever going to get that part of the schedule right, where you get you pick your non-district opponents, and all four of them are going to be in the category one or whatever. I would say they did a pretty good job for us in terms of the numbers, but it's just we can't compete with teams that only have two other teams in their district, and then can schedule 7 non-conference games, and that could be good games. So that's going to be kind of tough on the seeding. But even with that being said, I really, really, really think that it was a step in the right direction for sure.
Well, you're 14 seasons in now, and within your first 3 seasons, you won a state title. However, I know the hunger never goes away from you because you got a few more under your belt. But what have you learned, and how have you evolved with your playoff preparation over the years?
I think the most important thing, and this may not even be a playoff thing, just a practice thing overall, but is how to maximize minutes in ways that keep your players as safe and healthy as they possibly can be, while being as productive as you can. And one of the main things that we've looked at throughout the years is how can we make our practices be more effective and keep our kids healthy, because the game of football on a Friday night is a vicious, violent game, and things happen during that time, but you just can't afford in high school to lose guys during the practice week, and that's the main thing, is trying to keep guys healthy during the week and just be more effective. How can we maximize those minutes, not keep our kids out on the field for a long time, and have them fresh and vigorous and excited by a Friday night, but still getting all the information that they need to be able to prepare. So I would say really it's just been kind of fine-tuning that, and just making practice more efficient, and making practice also just safer, as the game's evolved a little bit, just finding ways not to pound on each other every single day and finding ways to still get it done to prepare yourselves for the game.
You have you and your staff have established Plant as a hub for talented passers to come through. It's been an attractive piece, attractive place for kids who want to throw the football to come play for the Panthers. And you have a long list of guys who have been really productive behind center. A lot of them have different skill sets, but they've been productive. Dane Franson leaves. He has an incredible senior season. He was our player of the year. And then you kind of have a void in the spring. Jordan McLeod shows up on your front steps, and you knew he was a talented athlete, but as the season has progressed, how has he developed and matured each and every game and practice?
I'll tell you, the first thing is that he's a really, really, really cerebral athlete, that he's a kid who kind of gets how the intellect goes into that part of the game, particularly at that position. And he's really been outstanding in terms of coming in right away and really, really studying what it takes for our offense to be successful. And then in the bigger picture, what it takes for an offense to be successful. Any offensive how playing that kind of football will be successful. And I really think even he's gotten to the point where it's even right now that's starting to kind of round into shape. It normally would take a longer period of time, but I think he's starting to really play his best football now. He's starting to become more decisive, pull the trigger on things that he likes, and now play those with confidence. And the interesting thing is that, he really is a pocket passer, but his athleticism is just starting to add the element to his game that we kind of had last year with Dane, where that was kind of our main running focus as well. But Jordan's not necessarily our main running focus right now, but the fact that he can run puts the defense on their heels a little bit and allows our passing game to flourish. So I really think that Jordan has been true to the process, has gotten better every single week, and that we have not seen the best of Jordan McLeod yet, that those are still to come in the coming days and hopefully the coming weeks if we could just keep earning an extra week every time we go out there. We might see really, really, really a tremendous superstar by the end of the year.
So during the month of October, Jordan had a quarterback rating average about 132. And for listeners at home, that means he took care of the football and he did some good things when he had to pass the football. Versus Arnwood, he showed tremendous toughness. And then versus Wiregrass Ranch, when you needed him to be very accurate and score a bunch of points for you, he did. So with that, give me one word that describes Jordan's intangibles as a quarterback.
I would say dynamic.
Okay.
Dynamic is something that brings in many facets to the game, and what it does is, as I mentioned, it puts the defense on the hesitant side. And when Jordan is on all cylinders, and even if you look at early on in the season, he had a couple interceptions early in the season, and he will tell you the first 4 interceptions that he threw, including the one that was in the Arnwood game at the beginning, those were not like, he was just trying to make a play, and they were just foolish. They were just interceptions where, okay, I'm just going to throw this now. And I think he's grown in that way. He understands that no plays are giveaways, and we don't want to give away any plays. And now he makes a play or doesn't make a play, but he makes a play or doesn't make a play, being competitive on every single rep.
Good stuff. That's a great breakdown by Coach Robert Weiner. You're just tuning in somehow, and you fast forward all the way to where we're at. Robert Weiner on the phone. Coach, you will host East River this Friday. You guys are always well prepared. So jump straight into it. Where is East River strongest? What is their strength?
They have a really, really good skill player. Number 4. He's not the biggest kid. He's one of those kids that we've had through the years, that's kind of a slot guy and a scat back, that they can get him to you. And, you can play great defense 15, 20 plays in a row, and then he could take one 50, 60 yards. And, that's really been our focus this year, is not giving up big plays. You look back to the Arnwood game, and we actually did a good job on offense. It doesn't seem like it because we didn't score offensively. We move the ball in the middle of the field, but we never had the big play to put it in the end zone. And Armwood had 2 huge plays against us, and then that put them into the circumstance to win the game rather handily at the end. And, so we hope that we learn from that game as we apply it to, the big opponents that we play in the playoffs as we go down the road. So they have that kind of guy, and they've really done a good job. I think that they're a team also, you look at them, they've grown as the season has gone along. Our hope is that I think that they're fairly new to the playoff scene, and, of course we have a great atmosphere here at Dad Stadium, and, so we hope maybe we'll get them right here at the get-go and bombard them a little bit with maybe our experience and their inexperience, but you never know how that plays out. But they'll definitely be a test for us here in the first round.
Without giving out your game plan, Coach, and telling the opponent where you are trying to attack them, in general, where do you think you can have some success?
Well, I think most importantly, and I mean, this is not really necessarily specific to this game, but it is, but I think is having a good balance. And I think what we've come to now, I think the most important thing about all this kind of prelude, the 10 games that are introductions to the playoffs, is not really finding how to play other teams and stuff like that, but it's learning your own team. And I think we've really started to find a combo of the guys that we like doing certain things in the backfield from the running back position, and then using Jordan, both using his legs and using his arm, connecting to some of our skill guys on offense. But, as a head coach, I'm also the offensive coordinator, but the big thing for us all year has been our defense. And we have had some amazing defenses throughout the years, but this defense has really been superior. I don't know if I've seen a defense that consistently every single game comes out to hit with the ferocity that they do. And they are really a defense that flies around the field. And we're going to do our best, certainly on offense, but we're going to hang our hat on our defense every single week, and the great job our special teams do as well.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Good luck on Friday. Hopefully everybody stays healthy. Earn yourself a win. Buy yourself another week.
Appreciate it, Preston. Thanks for having me on.
All right, Coach. We'll talk to you later, Bubba.
Bye-bye.
Coach Weiner mentioned his defense. They have been outstanding this year outside of the Wiregrass Ranch game, which was an offensive fireworks all around. And Armwood game kind of got away from them in the second half with a few big plays. They have not given up much at all. It was at one point where they were only allowing less than 8 points per game with a handful of shutouts. So big ups to that Plant defense. Good luck to the Panthers on Friday. All right, we're rolling on. We're going to finish this last segment. We're bringing in Doug Pugh. You know the name. Big-time BCP contributor for a long time. Doug, good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Let's jump right into this. The playoffs are here. Everybody's super excited about them. Let's start with 5A, my man. Jesuit versus Jefferson. Tarpon versus Lakewood. Both rematches from earlier contests in this season. However, that's not going to be our focus. We're going to scoot over slightly down south on the other side of the state with Dunbar and Immokalee. The winner of either Jefferson and Jesuit will play the winner of Lakewood and Tarpon. And the winner of that game would get either the Immokalee Baker winner and Dunbar Hardy winner, right?
Correct. And that Booker team is a team that is in, remember, they started, I believe, 0-5, won 4 of their last 5, and by virtue of forfeit win stemming from the Southeast Hardy fight, you've got Booker in there. So it's Booker out of Sarasota at 4-6, at Immokalee at 9-0, and a 7-2 Dunbar team from Fort Myers going up to Wauchula to play Hardy at 7-3, which is a pretty good couple of first-round games.
So let's assume, by most people's account, that Immokalee and Dunbar are the 2 strongest teams in their respective games. So
right.
Let's make the assumption that Dunbar wins and Immokalee wins, and they see each other. Who do you like in that contest?
Well, that's a fun topic because Dunbar only lost to him by a touchdown first go-around. So this is interesting how it would set up. Immokalee has only played. They haven't played a single Category 1 team this year, and they've played only 2 Cat 2s, which leads 7 other games that were the season finished for those opponents at either Category 3 or Category 4 points. That's the perfect example of a non-tested schedule. They had one game that they did not make up, and that was the Naples game, which would have been that Category 1 game that they could have used to actually test them, because I think Naples has the same caliber of squad that a Jefferson, Lakewood has. Jesuit is a bit of an enigmatic team, to say the least, for Jesuit. And, Tarpon has had a better season than I think a few people anticipated. So, but if you're looking at best on best coming out of those first round games, then you play the tape forward. I think Immokalee, because of the home field advantage, keep in mind Immokalee is an isolated area in the sense that it's the only game in town, man. And they have one of the best followings in the state. But strange things are going to happen if the game is close going into the fourth quarter. And sometimes it's the truth is stranger than fiction with regards to just crazy things happen down there. So I would not envy having to go down there. Now, if Dunbar pulls off the upset, the good news is that everybody, you got Jefferson or Lakewood that would actually host the second round, or the third round. My apologies. So you would get a good team no matter what. I mean, this is the best team for Dunbar. Speaking, it's the best run they've had in well over a decade, and that's it's a very old school. And they've won their last 4 games against opponents like Mariner and Clewiston, and they beat a rival, Fort Myers, that they grinded out. So, with regards to Immokalee, this is a team that was in the 2012 state finals. They lost to Godby. 9-0 might not be indicative of how good this team is. Keep in mind that Immokalee, that 2012 team, Preston, had some guys like by the name of Mackenzie Alexander, J.C. Jackson, Deidre Sinat, Jimmy Bays, who's a baller at USF, and Dearness Johnson was actually on the JV at that time. So, I mean, that's a program, and they were 2000. I want to say they were 2004 state champions. 2006 they went 10-0. So, this team, although 9-0 on paper, is in rarefied air. This is not an unbeatable team. So, regardless, you gotta like, Jefferson at Immokalee or Lakewood at Immokalee has a really nice ring to it. If you can get that far in terms of how quality, both those teams are, though, schedules aside and all of that good stuff, because, as much as I've possibly dismissed Immokalee or Dunbar, I think both those schools have legit shots of making it all the way as regional champions.
Not putting the cart before the horse, but we just identify some interesting matchups that could happen. I think off rip, Jesuit and Jefferson is going to be good. Tarpon versus Lakewood is going to be okay, but Jesuit versus Jefferson even better. And if we get that Dunbar-Immokalee matchup, it could be super interesting. Let's climb the classification to 6A, and there's a game going on in Trinity, Florida, with Chamberlain will visit Mitchell, who went undefeated. Chamberlain is on the ascend with their program. Let's just assume. Let's go across. Doug, let's do this. Let's look at that Vanguard-Gainesville matchup, because they play each other, correct, this week? Vanguard and Gainesville?
That is correct.
All right, so the winner of the Chamberlain-Mitchell games gets either one of those teams. They'll get the winner of the Vanguard-Gainesville game. If you know anything about Vanguard, they had 6 shutouts this season. They whooped up on Kathleen with a 38-0 victory. So both Gainesville and Vanguard extremely strong and would be a challenge for either Chamberlain or Mitchell, correct?
That is correct. And you really don't want to have to, at this point, because of how good that matchup is with Mitchell and Chamberlain in the first round, obviously neither one of those teams want to be in the situation where they're having to, look ahead or anything like that. They, obviously with them, they're the precise meaning when you go behind, 1 week at a time, right? So
right, for sure.
But if you look forward, to the second round, there's a lot going on, especially with a team like Vanguard. You mentioned the 6 shutouts this season, and last year they had arguably one of the most exciting quarterbacks in all of Florida with N'Kosi Perry. But the problem with Perry is that he was running for his life for the vast majority of that season. That offensive line had a lot of holes in it, and they ran into it. Lake Gibson at the end of the season, at the end of the regular season, and that was we saw that last year, and so this year what they've done is that offensive line has come back bigger and better than ever. The 6 shutouts, but they put up 371 points, and the thing that struck me about Vanguard this season, especially, was when I would catch their games and watch how it comes across. So they were one of the first teams to put running clocks on people, virtually week in and week out, which is what you're supposed to do when you're trying to be an elite team. So all that said, Gainesville gave them their toughest game of the season. So that game was only a touchdown, and it looked like they were headed to overtime at one point. And Gainesville's only losses are to Columbia, which was the top wild card in 7A1, and to Vanguard. So this is not, the road does not get any easier for either one of those teams, because keep in mind, you go any farther forward with that, and who's waiting for you down the line but none other than either an Armwood, a Lake Gibson, or a Hillsborough Sebring. So there's that 6A2 Region 2 is loaded. I don't think people are giving it enough credit for what it deserves.
We spoke with Coach Weiner, the head coach at Plant, earlier. He's had his fair share of games in the state championship versus St. Thomas Aquinas. One victorious and one was on the bad end of the stick. But it sounds like from people in the know about St. Thomas is that St. Thomas just isn't as good as they've been in the past. Or they're just not that team this year, Doug. What is your opinion when folks talk like that about Aquinas?
I kind of laugh. By whose standards? If you're going by Aquinas' standards, it's a down year. But don't think that you can't get running clocked by them if your name isn't Miramar. They've done it to everybody else but that. The loss they took was they were leaving town just as Irma was approaching. Had a lot. I'm not going to discount that sort of mental distraction. I watched that game on ESPN, and they just couldn't get anything done against a nationally ranked team from Arizona. The Miramar game, Miramar's number 1 team in 8A, and so you can think that that you can pop in the film and you can think that this team is somehow got kinks in the armor, and there's weaknesses to exploit. I mean, you can think that all day long, but you're probably going to end up getting thumped on the head pretty good if if you're not careful. I'd approach St. Thomas more like a wounded animal coming into this point, and that's not the kind of St. Thomas that other teams want to see right now, no matter how good they think they are.
Well, we've got some good games coming up, my man, and I'm excited about the playoffs. Anything of interest that people should pay attention to before we close it out?
Man, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's so many good matchups in this first round that you can just go up and down the line in terms of the especially the teams that are in 5A2, that would be River Ridge, Zephyr Hills, and Hernando. Clay is one of the better teams in all of 5A North, so I would and that is saying something given the fact that you've got in 5A Region 1, you've got Rickards, West Florida, McCullough, Ribault, Bowles, Trinity Christian, Ponte Vedra, and Godby waiting for you if you make it to that far. So that 5A, Class 5A is loaded. I know Class 6A down south gets a lot, that Miami district gets a lot of love. But I promise you, teams are going to have to earn it this year, coming out of no matter what region it is, except for a couple. But even then, the fact that you're going to have to go to the higher seed, that having home field advantage for a couple teams might make all the difference in the world. So I think we might be onto something pretty good. Granted, there's quite a few tweaks that need to be made, but it's a good start for this playoff system.
With that said, we are going to close it out. We'll have another big Blitz Package podcast next week, and we'll discuss results in the upcoming games. Until then, good luck to all our teams involved, and we're out.